Hello everybody and welcome back to the Xcess podcast here on YouTube. In this episode we are going to be discussing the Hall of Fame, WrestleMania, and the post-WrestleMania Raw. But really quickly, I do want to talk about what happened last Tuesday at 6 p.m., around 6 p.m. local time in Arizona. The Ultimate Warrior passed away last Tuesday, so it'll be a week tomorrow. When it was first talked about, there weren't much details known. I will get to some details that are known by TMZ a little bit later, but really quickly, I think it was around 11:40, between 11:40 and 11:45 last Tuesday when Triple H tweeted that, he was saddened to confirm the death of the Ultimate Warrior. And, the whole wrestling world was like, what? Nobody knew what was going on. Then WWE released their statement. Then TMZ got details. Like I said, around 6 p.m. local time in Arizona, Warrior and his wife, Dana, were walking to their rental car from their hotel they were staying at. I don't think their kids were around, which is a good thing. I mean, the traumatic situation they would be going through more than they are right now. I can't imagine that, but he and his wife, I would assume they were going to be on their way to like a dinner or something, but they were walking to their rental car and Warrior was clutching his chest, usual signs of like a heart attack incoming, and he did have a massive heart attack right by their rental car outside the hotel. Medical personnel arrived on the scene, took him to a local hospital, but he was already gone by the time they got to the hospital. And like I said, this stunned the wrestling world. I mean, not even 24 hours before this happened, he was on Raw, and eerie promo sounding aside, it's just really sad to see him reconcile with WWE, and then he's gone. A lot of people have been speculating maybe he knew something was wrong, and then he, tried to reconcile, get a Hall of Fame spot, appear at WrestleMania one last time, stuff like that. I don't know if that's true or not. It could be, but I'm not going to speculate it like the rest of the world. I'm not going to speculate steroid use or anything like that, like Nancy Grace. Oh, dear God, I would go off on Nancy Grace like a lot of people have, but I'll probably regret stuff I would say, so I'll just keep it to myself, and let's just leave it at that. But, appeared at the Hall of Fame Saturday, appeared at WrestleMania with all the other Hall of Famers, had the promo on Raw. It's really sad. And I mentioned this back when, unfortunately, we talked about Mae Young's passing, right before the Royal Rumble. How, before I actually started doing what I do, because I didn't become a wrestling fan until pretty much after WrestleMania 19. So, at that point, it was a few years, before YouTube actually existed, but once YouTube started coming out and everybody started uploading that, and I found out about YouTube in 2007, I went back, because before the WWE Network came out, YouTube was like the only platform where you could definitely find stuff from wrestling in the past. And that's where I watched stuff about Warrior, Macho Man, Mae Young, all the classics, and it's sad. My father grew up watching Warrior, grew up watching Macho Man, those guys, and he was even taken aback by it, and he hasn't watched wrestling full-time since, I think, the early WrestleManias. Like, he hasn't extensively watched it like I have. He's watched it sometimes with me, but not all the time, and he hasn't really extensively watched since I think he went to WrestleMania 3 and 4. So even he was taken aback. He was taken aback when Macho Man died. He was, it's sad. So my thoughts and prayers are definitely with the Warrior family right now. Dana and their young girls. I cannot imagine what's going through their head right now. TMZ has been posting articles pretty much every day about the situation, and as of this recording for the podcast, pending other tests, the preliminary cause of death is heart disease, which led to the heart attack, and pending toxicology, an official autopsy, because apparently the body hasn't really been, tests from the autopsy haven't really come out yet, but what the, I don't know the official word for the people that do autopsies, but the person basically said that right now, as it looks like, it's the heart disease and a heart attack thing. So, Warrior, I didn't grow up watching you, but, with the network and old YouTube stuff when YouTube was more reliable and didn't have a crappy layout, thank you. And I could say this with people that actually did grow up watching you. Thank you for the entertainment. Even in your final days, you were very entertaining, and the whole wrestling world is going to miss you. So, Godspeed, Warrior. Thoughts and prayers to his family at this time right now. And let's move on to more happy stuff, although it's still sappy now because of the situation. The WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Really quick thoughts on it. Warrior stuff, it's gonna stay with you for the rest of your life, especially people that were there live. That's definitely gonna stay with everyone's heart for a long time, if not forever. Mr. T went on too long. They had Paul Bearer, they had Kane interrupt, and then awesome moment with Paul Bearer's induction, how they had his sons come out. I think the oldest did the, oh god, I can't even do that voice after talking somberly. Oh yes, but high-pitched voice like Paul Bearer. And Undertaker came out, and he had the urn, and he saluted Paul Bearer one last time. Amazing. Lita's went on a little too long as well, and that caused guys like Jake the Snake Roberts and Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, to not have long speeches, combined with Mr. T, but every year, I would say, the WWE tops their Hall of Fame classes. They somehow do it with a short list of names that still need to go in, but they always top it. And I'm interested to see how they top it next year, because they will. But anyways, yeah, those were just my quick thoughts on the Hall of Fame, and amazing with DDP, what he's done with Jake the Snake Roberts and Scott Hall. That's all I can say. If you have the network or you're planning to get the network soon, definitely watch the Hall of Fame. Worth the $10 a month alone. And the same goes for WrestleMania, which I have been open about saying it's probably the greatest WrestleMania of all time. And I'm not shy about that. WrestleMania 30 was a stellar show. If not the best of all time, probably the greatest since 24. But I did think WrestleMania 30 is better than WrestleMania 24, but that's my personal opinion. Of course, yours will be different. But WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan, he overcame the Authority, beating Triple H in the opening match. After the opening segment with Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock. They did 15 to 20 minutes to open the show. They had a beer salute and stuff like that. Daniel Bryan defeated Triple H, earns the title shot later in the night. The typical Divas retaining title match, although that's the first Divas title match since WrestleMania 23 when it was the women's title. John Cena defeating Bray Wyatt, and people complained online, even though the match was a really, really great match. Bray Wyatt losing did more than winning at WrestleMania, because if Bray defeated Cena at WrestleMania, the story would basically be over right then and there. But they're continuing it to Extreme Rules, and maybe even further, I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. But Bray Wyatt losing to John Cena at WrestleMania did more for him winning. The live performance was fantastic for Mark Crozer and his band. I love this show. The one thing people sour upon for this show is that I never thought it would happen. It took me about a day to get over the initial shock. But the streak, The Undertaker's undefeated streak, is over. Brock Lesnar came to WrestleMania, and he conquered the streak. Now, a lot of people had backlash that it should have been a young guy to end the streak, that it shouldn't have been Brock anyway, all that mumbo-jumbo. But Undertaker wanted it to be Brock. He's wanted it since 2010, and apparently they were gonna... If it would have happened in 2010, Brock would have ended the streak at WrestleMania 27, then at WrestleMania 28, they would have had a rematch. I don't know how that would have worked. Maybe Undertaker gets his win after the streak is broken. I don't really know how that would have worked, and I'm glad we didn't find that scenario to happen until now. I don't know if Undertaker's done or not, though, so who knows if he'll appear at WrestleMania 31? I mean, he doesn't have the streak to defend anymore, but I was shocked, and I was mad, and sad when the streak was broken. But rewatching WrestleMania, because being the mark that I am, I watched WrestleMania again as soon as the replay was up on the network. And then Raw the next night, which we'll talk about in a second. Fantastic storytelling for the streak ending. And there was articles on, I think, Cage Side Seats where people were saying that WWE's been telling us for a year that the streak was going to be broken, but we wouldn't listen. And that puts it into more of a perspective, because Undertaker had a lot of offense on Brock during their meetings on Raw, and then Brock literally dominated Undertaker at WrestleMania. So it's like, mind blown. And I'm even still shocked talking about it right now. But while the match was sloppy, the storytelling in the last few minutes and the aftermath was fantastic. And this is something that is going to be talked about for a long time. For all of WrestleMania, this is going to be one of the most talked about WrestleManias for a long time. Nobody thought the streak would end. It finally did. There was backlash at first. A lot of people have come to accept it, like myself. Some are still reeling over it, but overall, I think that breaking the streak to a guy like Lesnar will work in the end. Brock is like 36 or 37, and Taker's 49, turning 50, so Brock, if he continues to sign new deals, he has at least 10 years in him, if he wants to. Like, if he tells his body 10 more years, he'll do it. But at first I was mad over it, but I think I'm gonna be okay with Brock Lesnar breaking the streak. Those are really the most notable stuff. Daniel Bryan defeating Triple H, Lesnar ending the streak, John Cena defeating Bray Wyatt, Cesaro winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Everybody thought that he was gonna be babyface after that because of the reactions, and then Raw happened. We'll get to that. But yeah, really, those were they made the show, and even the other matches weren't bad, so. But anyways, the final match of the night, Triple Threat, World Heavyweight title, Daniel Bryan, again, overcame the Authority. And I didn't notice this when first watching, but there were a lot of callbacks to the Triple Threat from WrestleMania 20, with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit, for this Triple Threat. And while it's a bit creepy due to the Benoit stuff, because I've been open about the Benoit situation, I'm not denying that he was a great wrestler. I just can't forgive him, the person, for what he did. Hopefully, I pray to God that somehow, someway, Bryan doesn't end up in a situation like Benoit ended up being in. But still, lots of callbacks to that match, and I actually didn't notice at first, but when I rewatched it, the nostalgia did pour in. But Daniel Bryan celebrating the end of WrestleMania as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. So, again, it was a stellar show. Probably the best of all time, or at least best since 24, but I thought this was better than 24. Leave your thoughts down below. Anyways, the post-Raw WrestleMania, probably the biggest one of all time since they started that tradition where there has to be a debut or a return every Raw after Mania. We had vignettes for Adam Rose and Bo Dallas, who's going to be re-debuting on the roster. Hashtag it's Bo time. Hashtag I'm possible. We had finally the in-ring debut for Alexander Rusev. We also had a surprise with Paige confronting AJ and becoming the new Divas Champion. Okay, I'll take it. Paige is a fantastic wrestler. She's really young. Her and AJ, I feel, are going to be the next Trish Stratus and Lita. And I mentioned this on Twitter on SmackDown, when SmackDown was airing, because I caught, like, the last half of the show. It caused a lot of controversy when I said that. But, you know, that's just my opinion. If you actually haven't seen my opinion on that, go look on the Twitter account and you'll see it. You'll have to scroll down, obviously. But, you know, this Raw was hands down one of the best in a long time. And it popped the biggest rating since Raw 1000, I think. So, yeah, this was a pretty good show, I would say. You'll have to forgive me, because it's been forever since I've tried recording this podcast since, like, Wednesday, and I just couldn't bear to do it. And now, the things I wanted to say, it's kind of coming out difficultly, so I do apologize, but also Cesaro being a Paul Heyman guy, that was out of nowhere, but I will take it. That is actually a pretty good development for Cesaro. Him and Swagger will probably face off at Extreme Rules. And you know, Raw was just solid top to bottom. I loved it. And we get the tease of Shield versus Evolution. Oh baby, that is exciting. But really quickly, those are my thoughts on all that stuff. Rest in peace, Warrior. Hall of Fame was fun. WrestleMania, greatest of all time, in my opinion. Raw, fantastic. The biggest, probably even bigger than Raw 1000 was. Even though Raw 1000 was pretty stacked. And I do apologize again for any stutters or things of that nature. Anyways, that is going to do it for this edition of the Xcess podcast here on YouTube. Thank you all for listening. If you survived this long with your ears not bleeding, I have been James Rolls from RingsideAccess.com, and I will see you next time.